Oh, yeah. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode Sweet 16 of the Sailor Jerry podcast. My name is Matt Caughthran. I am still your host, but you should know that by now, ladies and gentlemen. You should also know that Sailor Jerry spiced rum is made the old school way. 92 proof, bold and smooth as hell. One thing you might not know, the big announcement, is the Sailor Jerry podcast is now available on YouTube. Hell yeah. Huge news. Now you can not only listen to the sound of my voice, but you can stare at my face as well, ladies and gentlemen. We are very excited to be introducing this visual element to the podcast. So go ahead and log on to YouTube, follow the official Sailor Jerry page, subscribe to it while you're there. Leave a comment on the episode. Let us know what you think. You know, we're always trying to evolve. We're always trying to progress. That's the mission statement of the podcast. So it feels good to be doing so. Something else you might not know. The Sailor Jerry podcast is about to hit the road. That's right. The Boston to Berkeley tour featuring Dropkick Murphys, Rancid, and the Bronx kicks off in just 4 days, ladies and gentlemen. And I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to taking the podcast on the road. We're going to do some travel episodes, some tour recaps. So if you live in any of the following cities and you got something cool that we should check out or you think would be good to talk about on the podcast, I'm going to need you to send me an email at the sailorjerrypodcast@gmail.com. That's the sailorjerrypodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you got. I'm calling out to the following cities here. We got Minnesota, obviously. Waite Park, Minneapolis will work. Kansas City, Missouri. Lincoln, Nebraska. Wichita, Kansas. Sauget, Illinois. Is that how you say that? Sauget. Sauget, Shantae. If there's anything cool going on out there, I want to know about it. What else we got here? Guilford, New Hampshire. Cincinnati, Ohio. Washington, Pennsylvania, Asbury Park, New Jersey, hell yeah. New York, Philadelphia, and Bridgeport, Connecticut. Let me know what's going on out there, man. I can't wait to get out there. Can't wait to fucking play some music. Goddamn, it's been a long time. What else is going on? I took my girlfriend to Vegas for her birthday. That was pretty cool. I hadn't been to Vegas in a long ass time, and Vegas was packed. So it was pretty cool to see it jumping again. I'm vaccinated, so I felt all right out there walking around. But, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. We got tickets to go see Chris Angel Mind Freak. And that was really, really fucking cool. Chris Angel does not disappoint, ladies and gentlemen. He was, eating razor blades, pulling doves out of every orifice. Break dancing. There was a little too much dubstep, for me, but that was really the only complaint I had. He made up for it in so many different ways. I mean, he levitates at the end. It's absolutely incredible. He's a little battle worn these days. He's looking a little chubbier. He's got this really, hilariously shitty Long Island accent. But all in all, the show is amazing. So if you are out in Vegas, don't be afraid to get your mind freak on, ladies and gentlemen. Also, big shout out to Vegas because, there's a lot of motherfuckers working really hard out there. So it was really cool to get back there and to experience it. And we had a really good time. So it's time for episode 16. Rose Hardy is living her best life right now, ladies and gentlemen. She is absolutely crushing the game. Not only is she an exceptional tattoo artist, but she is also an exceptional ceramics artist. And now, ladies and gentlemen, on top of both of those things, she is a bona fide TV star with her new show, Tattoo Redo. In this episode, we discuss growing up and learning how to tattoo in New Zealand, traveling the world, living in London, settling in but never settling down in New York City. We also talk about her new show, Tattoo Redo, of course. Get all the juicy details on that. And her ceramics company, Tenderthorn Ceramics, which is currently blowing up. It's unbelievable. So cover yourself in clay, pour yourself some Sailor Jerry, and let's go. So I really appreciate you joining us today on the Sailor Jerry podcast. I know you are insanely busy. First off, congratulations on the Netflix show.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tattoo Redo. It's a pretty cool show. Obviously, it's a little bit of a new spin on tattoo shows. It's basically a cover up, but it's done without the person being able to know what they're getting, and it's kind of chosen by like their significant other, right? Is that the way it goes?
Yes, exactly. It's based on the fact that the loved ones hate the tattoos that their significant other or their family member have. So they've brought them on the show to get rid of it. And but they don't know that they don't get to choose. So the client is kind of in a tailspin when we tell them that they don't get to choose and the loved one gets to choose. But yeah, it was a very fun experience. And I love the cast, the crew. It was just super fun to film. And it's out now. So
awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the work you did on the show?
Sure. Cover-ups. We're doing cover-ups. So straight out of the gate, that's a really hard one. And it's super stressful when you know the person doesn't know what they're going to get. But I was really happy with the work that I did. But whether the people love the work that we did, I hope. The good thing is with cover-ups that they hate the tattoos they have. So whatever we do, hopefully it's going to be better than what they have. So yeah, it was really fun, but it was very nerve-wracking as an artist because it was straight off the bat, basically doing the consultation with the loved one, drawing the design, and then the next day doing the tattoo. So we didn't get to plan anything or know anything. So for the artist, it was quite stressful, I'm going to admit, for sure.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, the spotlight's on, it's like, I know you've done a little bit of TV stuff with Ink Master in the past, but this was kind of like your first, time under the spotlight, right? As far as, putting your work on display like that. That's pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah. I vowed, like when I did Ink Master, it was as a judge. So it was super fun and you could sit back and just like talk some shit and do whatever. Yeah. But doing a tattoo on TV, I vowed. When I was on Ink Master, I'm like, I would never tattoo on TV. That is way too stressful.
Cut to the next scene. Cut to the next scene. Look at you.
But it was one of those opportunities where I thought, I never really thought of myself as someone who's going to be on TV or do that kind of work. But the opportunities arise and I was like, why not? And we did all the casting and all of the organizing right before COVID hit. So we were kind of doing all the groundwork and then COVID happened and I didn't think it was going to happen because we're locked down. And then we still had to do these kind of weird Zoom meetings and like the cast, I knew a couple of people, but not everybody. So I was really nervous and I honestly didn't think we were going to film. And then it happened. 6 weeks they gave us notice for, and it was like quarantine time where you're like drinking wine every day, eating 3 meals a day. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Like, wait a minute, you guys are springing this on me now?
Well, they kind of didn't. They kept making up. But I think with TV stuff, you never really know whether it's going to happen or not. And so definitely into the keto diet and into the Peloton every day for 6 weeks. And we did it. It was a really fun experience. It was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, the show is super cool. And it's like, obviously, I think everyone was really scrambling during the pandemic to kind of figure out what they were going to do and how they were going to adjust, on a professional level, on a work level. And I guess, you know, it's the same thing for a company like Netflix. You know, they're kind of like flying by the seat of their pants as far as like, okay, are we going to do this or are we not? And then it's like literally that morning, it's like, okay, let's go, let's do this. Call everyone up, you know? So yeah, you got to kind of be ready for that. But yeah, when it's on TV and you're, you know, it's like, that's, you know, give me a little bit more notice, guys. That would have been nice.
Yes, it was. Well, they kind of did. I just, in my own brain, was like, it's not going to happen. It's fine. I'm going to chill. I'm not going to care about this. But it happened, and I'm super excited that it's out now. It's great. Awesome.
And obviously, you know, this is another level for you. You know, you are a multifaceted artist, obviously an amazing tattoo artist. We'll get into that. I also really want to get into the ceramics as well. Tenderthorn, which is super, super cool. But I would like to travel back in time a little bit because you are from New Zealand. And and I would like to talk about that because it really is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful place.
You guys have been there, right? You toured there?
Yeah. We played, I think it was King's Arms in 2008.
Yes. Oh my God, the King's Arms.
Yeah.
That's like flashbacks for me. I love the King's Arms. So many shows at the King's Arms. And it shut down, which was so sad. But it was like the staple. And it was such a small venue. It was so good.
Yeah, it was super cool. And obviously, you know, we play Australia a lot, but we don't, for some reason, we never were able to do too many shows in New Zealand. So I know we're actually, booking shows over in Australia right now, and we're definitely going back to New Zealand.
Really?
In early next year. So super excited about that. But what was it like for you growing up there? Did you grow up in Auckland or around Auckland or where at?
I grew up in Whangarei, which is 2 hours north of Auckland. Pretty small town. Like it was a great place to grow up as a kid. Like I grew up at the beach. And my parents were kind of hippies and we lived by the beach, grew vegetables, had, you know, just all that kind of stuff. It was like very real compared to living in New York. You know, I have this like crazy opposites of places that I've lived. And New Zealand is beautiful. And I never appreciated it, obviously, until I left and then realized, wow, I complained about, I don't want to go to the beach. Let's go do this. Let's go to the city. Let's do all this stuff. And now all I want to do is go back to the beach to New Zealand. But yeah, I grew up
when have you been back? Have you been back since or?
No, not since. Well, I mean, I left New Zealand in 2007.
Okay.
So I try and go back every year. Obviously, COVID has made it not easy, but every year I usually dodge the winter here and then go back to summer there. So 2 months a year I'd be back in Auckland and just see all my family and friends. And obviously tattooing is great because you can work anywhere. So yeah, it's just a beautiful place and super progressive. Growing up there, like I grew up in a really small town and then my mum moved to Auckland, which is a bigger city, obviously. And I fell into tattooing there because there wasn't a lot of stuff I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be an artist, and I went through high school and left high school wanting to go to art school and then didn't end up following through and kind of floated around, did a couple of like part-time jobs and then ended up I was actually dating a guy who was getting a back piece by this artist, Adam Kraft, who's a friend of mine now.
Awesome.
And it's like a crazy story when I look back as a tattooist, because I was dating this guy and he said, oh, I'm getting this back piece done. Do you want to come and like meet the artist and maybe you can do some of the tattoo? And I was, as like an 18, 19-year-old, I'm like, hell yeah, but that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, just to go into a tattoo shop at that age when I wanted to do it but didn't really have the confidence to go and find an apprenticeship or anything. I obviously took up the opportunity and met Adam and walked in and he said, yeah, do you want to have a go? Do you want to use the tattoo machine? You want to like
love it.
Have a go on the
love
side?
That.
And I shit myself, obviously. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do this tattoo right now. And I did. It was this back piece of bat wings, like a crazy kind of black metal situation. And I did some of the shading and loved it. I was like, this is what I want to do. And yeah, met Adam and he just kept kind of teaching me, and he tattooed a lot of mutual friends. So I would just go around to his place, and when a friend was getting tattooed, he would do some, and then he'd give me the machine and I'd do some. So it was this weird, not apprenticeship, but just this situation that introduced me to like what it was.
Yeah, it was like passing the baton almost, you know. I was like, I'm gonna take a break. Why don't you get in here for a little bit? That's so cool. Before you started that, what were you like painting? Were you just like drawing, or where was your confidence artistically at before you started tattooing?
Before I tattooed, I had just come out of high school, and I had done art obviously all through high school. And
okay, cool.
Painting was the main thing that I wanted to do. But I also knew that going into art school, you spend this huge student loan and you don't come out with a lot. You don't go into this job that's going to pay you $100,000 a year to pay off this loan. So I was it was like a gap filler almost, thinking if I do art school, it's going to be great artistically and learning things, but financially, I didn't really know what was going to happen. So that was my like pause between high school and art school. I did these jobs. One of my roommates, he did like internet development. So I did image editing for him. These kind of like just jobs that I didn't.
You had
really
a couple of those jobs, huh? Yeah, I had a couple of those jobs too. Hated them.
Yeah. I was editing images of like skyscrapers, like buildings, and just doing contrast, brightness, frame it off. Yeah. But it paid money.
At least that's something that you can apply in some sort of artistic realm, you know. At least it's not, you weren't like flipping burgers or something like that, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. And so you kind of gradually just kept, you know, filling in for Adam. And then when did it kind of turn into something where you're like, all right, you know, I'm ready to do this on my own?
Well, it had to, because he left the country. So okay. I was on this little trajectory of Adam's going to teach me how to tattoo. This is going to be my career. And then he decided to go to Japan and England and do his own thing. Mm-hmm. So it all dawned on me, and he was leaving. And I remember he gave me this piece of paper, and at the top it said, all you need to make him bleed. And it was a list of things that I needed to buy to be That's a tattooist. Amazing. Yeah. He was wild. He was just like, just buy this stuff and just tattoo people. Like all these people you've been tattooing, all our friends. And I had a lot of friends, like punk kids that didn't want to pay for tattoos, and just friends that wanted free tattoos. I could have done it, but at the time, you could not just buy tattoo machines online. You couldn't buy anything online. I didn't know where to get it. And New Zealand is at the bottom of the world. We didn't have these supply companies or anything that exist now. So basically I freaked out, and I thought, you have to get an apprenticeship. You have to go and ask. You have to just put yourself out there. I was very shy. So at the time in Auckland, I don't think there was one female tattooist in Auckland, and there was a lot of shops that were kind of older guys, biker run shops.
Yeah.
I asked at one shop and they were like, fuck off, basically. I rang this number that Adam gave me to buy machines, and they hung up on me. I was like, what am I going to do? Oh my God, do I have to go to art school now? This is over. Like, broke my heart. And funnily enough, one of my friends, I saw her in the street one day, and she said, I heard this guy out in East Auckland's looking for an apprentice tattooist. So I rang him and I went out there. I got the apprenticeship, and I stayed for about a year, and it was great, but it was terrifying. It was very old school, very suburban shop.
Yeah.
Heavy shit. I was like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And would go home. I'd have a brave face all day, go home, cry at night. Like, what am I doing? I hate this, but I have to do this. This is what I want to do. And it all kind of came around full circle, because I stayed at the shop for about a year, and then I got offered to finish my apprenticeship in another studio. So I went to that studio, learned the basics of street shop, working, just doing any tattoo that walks in the door.
Yeah.
And Adam ended up coming back to New Zealand. So like after a year and a half of him gone, he reached out to me and he said, I'm going to open a shop in Auckland. Do you want to come and work? So it was just a matter of right place, right time, got the skills that I needed to be able to work in a proper tattoo shop. And yeah, he opened a really cool shop at the time there was a streetwear label called Illicit, which was this guy, Marty Emmond, who did all these amazing designs, and they did all this clothing range, jewelry. So they opened a shop together, and it was such a cool space. So I went to work with Adam again, and that's where my career really started with tattooing.
Awesome. That's super cool. I mean, that's like, it feels like, I mean, that's a pretty Kiwi story. You know what I mean? I mean, that's
Kiwi.
like, it is. I mean, it's like, I feel like, you know, in New Zealand, there's such a kind of relaxed vibe of just like, oh, you know, like you got this, you know, I'm gonna go to England. I'm gonna go travel around. You'll be fine. You figure it out. And then you had this like, you know, this kind of amazing kind of entry into it. And then you had to like, at some point you got to cut your teeth a little bit, and you gotta buckle down, and you gotta, you know, like you said, you gotta start doing anything and everything that walks in the shop. You gotta go home. You gotta cry yourself to sleep a couple nights. You know, it's all part of it. Yeah, it's all part of the process.
Eating 2-minute noodles for dinner, like living on nothing.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
there was like this is a great thing about New Zealand. When I was doing the shop that I worked at before Adam came back, there was this thing in New Zealand which doesn't exist anymore, but it was like a work start grant. So if you went and did this course with Work and Income New Zealand, which is unemployment, they would give you this grant to start your business. So I ended up getting this like $10,000 grant to start tattooing, even though I was tattooing.
What?
Yeah. So I basically was signed on for unemployment while I was doing my apprenticeship. And then my case manager was like, do this. Just go every morning for 5 weeks. Do this course. They'll do the business course for you. Basically, they wrote everything. They did everything. And then they gave you a supplement every week and gave you like $5,000 to buy all the shit you needed. So
that's so dope. That's so dope. Now, there's a lot of different countries that have programs like that for artists or independent contractors or whatever. You know, like I know band wise, we were always super jealous of our Canadian friends, because like Canada has artist grants like no one's business.
Yeah.
You could start like a high school band and all of a sudden you got like 20K, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
You don't pay any taxes. They just give you money, and they see it as like, you know, now you're like an ambassador for our country. You know, you're an artist, go forth, do some cool shit. And I always thought that was so cool. You know, obviously in the States, it's probably a little more complicated because of how many people there are and stuff like that. But
other places recognize the arts and
true.
Appreciate them.
Yeah, I know. And even, you know, there are cities throughout the U.S. Obviously, I know Austin is one of them that, you know, they have all kinds of special programs for artists and musicians and stuff like that. But it really is, it makes such a huge difference, I think, when you're able to get some sort of support like that, when you don't really, you know, when you have a bunch of talent, you have the work ethic, you have the drive, but you just don't have the funds. You know what I mean? You just don't have the funds. And it's like,
so true. It's so true with music and with arts, where with tattooing especially, if you don't have that to kick yourself off, you don't have the people that are going to be the ones that bring in your income, i.e. a fan, like fans or clients. So it was instrumental, honestly, in me being able to do these apprenticeships and get a little bit of money to pay my rent and not have to work night jobs and stuff like that. So it was great.
Right on. What was the shop called in Auckland that you're now when Adam came back? What was that shop?
It was called Illicit HQ.
Okay.
So it was on one of the main, like the cool streets in Auckland, K Road. It was a huge space. So we had in the front all the clothing, jewelry, all that stuff, accessories. And then we tattooed out the back.
Okay.
They ended up getting a basement that was an art gallery. It was a really cool collective.
Yeah. That sounds super cool. So how long, and then I'm assuming from there you eventually made the trip to NYC. How long did that last? How long were you there before you left for New York?
Well, so there's a lot in between that, actually.
Oh, let's go.
If you want, how many hours have you got?
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
So I ended up leaving. So I worked at Illicit for probably 4 or 5 years, which gave me the opportunity to work with, we had Dean Sacred, who he owned a really cool shop in Auckland at the time. He shut it down. He had his first child and he was like, I'm going to come and work at Illicit as well. So I was immediately in this space with, in New Zealand at the time, American tattooing, like the styles that were going on, that was like the middle of new school tattooing, traditional tattooing. It wasn't really a thing in New Zealand. There's obviously a lot of traditional tamoko tattooing, and there was a lot of just older fine line shops that did very basic stuff. And then we had this shop that opened and Dean came, and it was all that influence from America that really helped shape who I was and what I was doing. And there came a point where I was like, I have to travel. I want to go away. We had guest artists coming in. So I was meeting people from overseas that I'd never seen this in any of the other shops before. People coming in and working, and you could go and visit them. This is MySpace days. So it was like before you had social media to really promote yourself. And one of my friends, Ariel, she worked in Brisbane, and she had said to me, do you want to come to Sweden and do the Stockholm Convention? This was in 2006 and the convention in 2007. And I was like, fuck it. Yeah, I'm going to come away and just like bust out.
Hell yeah.
And then I was like, if I'm traveling the 30 hours it takes to get to Sweden, I should go to England, and had friends of friends. I didn't know anyone directly there, but I was like, if I'm going, I'm going. Like, just go do it all. And my dad's from England, so I got my passport and went and did Sweden and London, which London was a crazy situation where I think back and I'm like, you know, when you think, I was like 3 days before I was going to London, I went to see my sister in Brisbane for like a month before I left. And I realized a few days before I left to go to London, I had organized my guest spot, but I didn't have anywhere to stay. And I was going for like 2 months. And I remember thinking I had been set up with a friend of a friend to stay with, and she never got back to me. And I sat there with my sister. I was like, fuck, I don't know where I'm going to stay. And I remembered my friend Johanna, who I had met her one time in New Zealand. And she had said, if you come to London, come and stay with me. I work in this bar. You probably know the bar, Crowbar in Soho.
Oh yeah.
Of course you know it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Wait, what? Who was it? Who's the name?
Johanna.
Oh shit. Yeah. I know Johanna. Yeah. She's a good friend. She's a good friend.
She is amazing. And so going back to that long ago, I'd met her one time, and I just got on MySpace and I messaged her and I said, hey, I was meant to stay with Nicole, but I haven't heard back from her. Do you think I can come and stay with you? I'm coming to London in 2 days. And she was, of course, like, hell yeah, come and stay with me. And she had one of those weird, like, bed set kind of apartments where it's just a bedroom with a sink, and you share the bathroom with the whole place, and those tiny London apartments.
Yeah.
And so I turned up, and she let me live with her in that little tiny room for 2 months. And she would go to work as I'm going to work in Essex, like way the hell out in Romford in Essex. She was living in Shepherd's Bush. She would come home from work early hours of the morning. I would get up, get ready. So we just did this weird rotation where I would sleep all night. Then she would come home, get into bed as I'm leaving for work. And then she knew everyone because she worked in Soho. So Frith Street was right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just met everyone through her the first few days that I got there. I got a job at this amazing shop in Romford called Cult Classic. And I'd applied for many jobs at famous studios in London who all said no. And I was like, holy fuck, what am I going to do? And Aaron, the owner of Cult Classic, he was like, come and work, come and do this thing. So it was great. It was all falling into place.
That's amazing. That's so, yeah, Johanna, we spent a lot of time at the Crowbar.
Of course you did.
A lot of time at the Crowbar. Yeah. And it was, I don't know. It can't still be alive, unfortunately, but she used to have this French bulldog, Rommel.
Rommel, he only just passed away, like not long ago.
Thank God. Yeah, he was the best, but he was the classic like bar dog too, because it was like this little French bulldog would just be, bumping around, sniffing everything. But those, and for those people out there, the Crowbar was, for a long time, it was like the quintessential, metal punk rock bar, smack dab in the middle of London. But it was so small and always jam packed, and the type of spot where the roof is always leaking a little bit.
Yes.
Like it was the charm was kind of, in the the cracks and the dust and the dirt and all that stuff. And the staff was the coolest, the coolest.
Yeah, Steve, obviously Steve, as well.
Those were amazing times. And I think they were going to try to shut it down, I think, during COVID, but I think they got funding to kind of save it, or maybe they lost a building, but they had to I think they're reopening it somewhere else. But
I hope so.
Yeah,
but also, you know what? It was the only place in London that had AC. Do you remember it had an AC?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of wild nights there, and a lot of great memories. That's so cool. That's so fucking funny. What a small world. Yeah, that era.
Totally.
Did you ever go to the family business shop with Mo?
Yes, I know Mo really well. I actually filmed a show in London like 5 years ago. We did a tattoo show there, and he was one of the guest judges on the show. I was doing the hosting, judging thing, and Mo came and was one. I love Mo. He's so put together.
Yes,
he's just so composed.
Always so put together. We had some really great times at his shop as well, just listening to records and tattooing and just hanging out. So shout out to Mo. Awesome.
It was just his 50th birthday.
What?
He just had his 50th birthday. Happy birthday, Mo.
Yeah, he's designing isn't he designing crazy watches and stuff now? Is he still?
Oh yeah, he's got his fingers in all the pies. Yeah. He's got it together. Yeah.
He's the man. Shout out to Mo. That's amazing. So, obviously London was off the chain then. How was Sweden for you?
Sweden was really fun. We just did the convention, and it was completely overwhelming because I was green as hell because I just came straight off the boat into this huge convention, meeting all these people, anxiety plus, just being like, what is going on? And tattooing at a convention is super stressful because you just don't have all the things you need. I always compare convention work to camping, and I hate camping. It's like nothing is as good as it is at home, and everything is dirty in 5 minutes. Like there's just shit everywhere, and you're like, where am I? Who am I? What's going on? So it was stressful, but I met a lot of people there that it was amazing. That's when I realized what tattooing was coming from New Zealand. I'm like, fuck, this is incredible. And just the fun when I was that age, it was like partying. You're just like going out and you're work. That's when you can wake up and work and not have a hangover.
The golden era. Yeah. It'd be great to be tattooing at a convention and look over and you see like a grizzly bear rummaging through trash,
Camping.
That's amazing. So what happened after London?
So London, I ended up making so many good friends and just having the best time.
Yeah.
And I ended up putting everything in storage in New Zealand and just traveled and lived. I bounced between Melbourne, Brisbane, London. I went to Denmark. I first came to New York City as well. For 2 years, I just bounced. I was like, I don't live anywhere. I just sleep in my friends' spare rooms or couches. And it was, very much like just free.
Just
free to do
for
whatever I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that because, I know that, there's a large percentage of the artist population that loves to kind of just travel and, you have to kind of roam the wilderness, so to speak, at some point in your life. But it seems like there is something about New Zealanders, Australians, that they just fucking love it. It's like next level. Like when we would tour through Europe and stuff like that, everywhere we went, there was always an Australian like hanging out at the bar or just like coming up to say what's up after the show. And you'd be like, wait a minute, what, like, where?
Why are you here?
Yeah, why are you here? You know, and there's just something, I don't know what it is, but there's something.
You know what I think it is compared to America? I think in New Zealand and Australia, when you grow up, you live quite far away from all these places, right? Yeah. So and it's also embraced that when you finish high school, when you get into college, or we say university, but you go on your OE, overseas excursion experience, whatever, and you go and live your friggin' life before you have to lock into a career. And it's embraced and it's encouraged. So a lot of people from those areas are just like, we need to go see what there is out there. And a lot of them, like me, probably don't go back. That's what I did. I'm like, I'm just going to go on a little trip and never live in New Zealand again. Yeah. But it is, there is Aussies everywhere.
Yeah.
I've only met a couple of New Zealanders in New York. It's really strange. I feel like there's not a lot of New Zealanders here, but you meet Aussies all the time. There's so many out there.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you were out there for, what, 4 or 5 years? Something out there in London? How long were you out there?
So I bounced. So I was always like 3 months at a time for maybe 2 years.
Okay.
And then I ended up moving to Melbourne because I love Melbourne.
Awesome city.
Favorite city.
Awesome city.
Love it.
Yeah.
And Chapel Tattoo, it was home. It was Jane and Kate and Andrew who own Chapel. Kate doesn't own it anymore, but when I came through and did the guest spots, it was just like, I have to be here. This is the best city and the most chill shop. You could be there or not be there. No one has any pressure on you. It was just the most fun experience. And going back to social media, I had a lot of clients there. So through like MySpace, there was people that wanted to get tattooed all the time. And I met a guy, I got married, stayed in Melbourne for about 5 years, didn't last. You're like, yeah.
Well, it's for a lot of people, marriage is just a chapter, and then hopefully it's a cool chapter, so it might not last forever, but it's all good.
It was an experience.
Yeah, there you go.
Learned a few things, moved on. So, I stayed in Melbourne for 5 years. And that's at the point, when I was in Melbourne, it was so easy, fun. Everything was great. And then I got offered a guest spot at Kings Avenue in New York, which obviously Kings Ave has, the most incredible artists. And I really wanted to get tattooed by Mike and Grizz from Kings Ave. And they offered me a guest spot out of the blue. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to go to New York, because I'd been one time during my travels and loved it. I did a guest spot at New York Adorned, and I think it was in 2007 I came.
Okay.
Did a guest spot, and this is the kind of city where I turned up from London, and it was out of the blue that I got offered the guest spot at New York Adorned, and was completely terrified, obviously, because there was this caliber of artists that you're like, holy shit, these are the people I've seen in, back then, magazines.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, shit. So I came here, and it was that I came for 3 weeks, stayed with my friend in Brooklyn, and didn't visit any sites, did no touristy stuff, just was here like I lived here, just did that whole thing. And it was so great. And so when I got offered the guest spot, fast forward to, it must have been 2013, offered me the guest spot, and I was so into it. Yeah. Holy shit, yes, let's do this. And ended up meeting a guy that lived here as well. So the package of both of them, I just thought I should move. I need to come here. I need to be in New York. And Kings Ave sponsored me to get the O1 visa, the artist visa. So, it was another thing where I look back and I'm like, that was kind of crazy to just be like, I'm moving everything and leaving everyone, and I'm going to come to this place that I don't know anybody except for the guy that I was dating and a couple of people. But yeah.
But it felt right. It felt like the good move.
It did, because I think even though everything was as good as it could be in Melbourne, you sort of think like, where am I going to go from here? Like, how much more can I reach? And as far as I felt, like Chapel was the top, and I had a great client base. I was very busy. had a great home. My mom lived there at the time. So it was like, maybe I need to shake it up.
Yeah.
I think I'm one of those people where I'm like, every 5 or 6 years, it's like, shake it up, throw yourself out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to live. It's cool, you know. I think that the trick to that, I think where a lot of people fuck up is that, you know, shake it up is like become something self-destructive. You know, like they got like burn it all down. You know what I mean? It's like you don't got to do that. You don't got to. No,
you can just like branch. You can branch out.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, from the time you know, traveling through Europe, and then obviously before you made the move to New York for the guest spot, how had your work evolved? I mean, you had been tattooing pretty much consistently the entire time, right? So how were you at that point? You must have been feeling pretty good about your skill, about everything you're doing.
Yeah, it was, again, in Melbourne, I feel like I needed to shake it up because I was in a comfort zone with my work as well, where I was sought after for every day, all day, never to complain about it, but it was like lady heads and roses, or like, you know, it was stuff that I wanted to be doing, but it's coasting. You know, when you're like, every day is fucking sweet, every day is easy, and I was very happy with it. But coming to New York, it was like super intimidating. So to come to New York, and I think even backtracking to like working with Adam and Dean at Illicit, my work was so different before I met them. And I knew how much I grew when I threw myself into the most stressful, judgmental. I'm like, oh God, they're going to look at my line drawings and like there would be days where Dean would be like, put a piece of tracing paper over that. And he would just redraw the whole thing. And I'll be like, oh fuck, yes, mine is terrible. Yours is really good. And you have to eat some shit to learn some stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of that feeling where I'm like, I'm going to go work at King's Ave, which is this like extremely famous, successful shop with amazing artists like Mike and Graz. Obviously I said I want to get tattooed by them, looked up to them. I knew it was going to be terrifying, but my work, I think, as well, starting at King's Ave, I ended up doing a lot of work that I would never have taken on, because I was, again, in Melbourne, you're just taking on the stuff that's like comfort zone. It's like, fuck yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
So in one way, working at King's Ave I grew a lot and did a lot of different stuff, and going from like the lady heads with flowers, the more kind of traditional stuff, I started doing a lot of work that was more the decorative, ornamental, insanely stressful stencils that are like symmetrical body pieces I put myself through it. I'm like, just do it, because I know it's going to be amazing once it's done, but stress me out to no level. But I love doing that work, and I do a lot of different styles now compared to what I did back then.
Yeah, right. What's your what do you think is your favorite style? I mean, you do a lot of obviously you do a lot of neo-traditional, black and gray, color realism. What's your preference?
I don't have a preference. I say that all the time. And also people from my entire career have said, what is your style? What is it? It's not traditional. It's not neo-traditional. It's like not in any basket. Like I can't really put it in any of those as far as like very specific tattoo styles. But I just do what I do. Like I just draw it, and I don't really care to look at like, I love looking at other tattooists' work, but I don't draw that for inspiration. Like I'm not like, I want to fit into this box. I want to be this kind of tattooist. I just kind of do it and it comes out and I can't label it but they are very different. That's the hard thing, where I do a lot of like cuffs, like hands, like whether they look lacy or Art Deco, it's decorative, ornamental kind of stuff, which is completely different to something I would do tomorrow. Like I do that today, I do that tomorrow. But I couldn't do either one of them all the time because I need to mix it up. It's the same as my ceramics, where I can't, right now, 20 years into tattooing, I really can't tattoo 5 days a week. I need to have this balance. It's the same balance of New York and New Zealand. Like I'm one of these people, I need to have these opposites and these different situations to keep me fresh and keep me like inspired.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And it's so cool that you do have that, and you kind of have that, you know, in almost every aspect of your life. You know, you have it in home and in New York where you're living, and you have it creatively between, you know, being able to tattoo everything and just kind of do what you want, but also between the ceramics. And I want to get into that now because it is so fucking cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so cool. So Tenderthorn Ceramics, how did that all start? Like, when did you kind of start getting into that? And how did it, like, you know, level up to the spot where you were like, okay, like this is something that I really love, and I'm going to open up this shop? And because I mean, everything sells out super quick. The Cobra planner that thing is so badass.
Thank you.
Yeah. So talk to us about that.
I'll talk to you about that. So it was one of my trips. I was going home. The best thing about going back to New Zealand every year is you have to do a stopover in LA or San Francisco. So I'd stopped over to see my friend Jen in San Francisco, and she has insane collections. She loves 40s, 50s decor, like everything.
Awesome.
And she had all these chalkware. If you're familiar with, like in the 1920s and 30s, if you went to the fairground and you won a prize, it would be chalkware, which was a plaster mold of a poodle or a plaster.
Okay.
Or you think of like what your grandma would have on the wall, like a relief of a lady's head with fruit on her head, or it's these kind of relief semi-sculptural pieces that are airbrushed. Or she had some of those in her apartment, and I was like thinking, because merch gets really boring for me. Prints of your paintings, T-shirts, bags. I mean, you know.
I know. I got you.
So I was looking at these things in her apartment, and I was on my way back to see my dad, he's a sculptor, artist.
Oh, cool.
He lives in a very small town in New Zealand, and he has this huge connection to people who do ceramics, pottery. He carves wood, so he does, and he paints and does all this stuff. So I got inspired by Jen's pieces in her house, and I was like, fuck, that would be really cool to do limited runs for merch that are from a mold, so you can just like produce them really fast.
Yeah.
You make one master, you produce them really fast, but you can hand detail everything. I can paint everything different. So each piece is like a different thing. You can sell it for more, and it's more interesting for the people that want to buy stuff that can't get tattooed. And funnily enough, I went and saw my dad, and he was like, we're going to go see Julie and Pete, his friends who own this beautiful property. And Julie is a professional ceramicist. She teaches it. She has a huge like workspace at their place on their property. Pete is a metal worker, and he does all this amazing welding and sculptural metal work. And Dad was like, we're going to get some wine, we're going to bring some food, and we're going to go and do some, like, throw some stuff on the wheel, which I'd never done before, like throw pots, make some stuff. And I was like, fuck, this is perfect. So we went and did that. And then I came back to New York and just immediately enrolled in classes. I was like, I have to do this because I know nothing about it. I didn't do it in school. I knew just through my dad's background and his friends and that community that, you know, this is amazing stuff, but I want to learn how to do it. So I got back to New York and immediately, without even, this is one of my other things where I'm like, you're such a weirdo. Like, why didn't you YouTube how you do this stuff before you went and did classes? So you don't seem like a big moron, like sitting there like, what are we doing? But I enrolled in classes at Sculpture Space NYC, which is in Long Island City, and I took mold making. And I had no idea about slip casting, about anything like that. So I did these classes and realized the potential of what I could do. And it went from chalkware made out of plaster to high-end. I'm like, let's make some expensive shit. Like, let's do porcelain. Let's do gold. I'm like, gold luster? What is that? Oh, my God. And so I did classes for like 2 years.
That's incredible.
And then, yeah, it was what I needed, honestly, after tattooing for so many years. And we're doing art for other people. That's what I do. Like, there's a lot of tattooers who do exactly what they want on people, but I like having the interaction with clients and drawing for them and taking their ideas. But this was like, I can do whatever I want now. I can learn a new skill after not even graduating high school. And I was like, I want to learn. I want to learn. I'm like stoked to do this stuff. And I just took class after class after class every week. No days off, just went and did all this stuff. My teachers were like, wow, you're running way before you can crawl with what I wanted to do with the cobras and the planters.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working on right now is working with a really amazing studio in Mexico to produce the planters, which no one's really seen. Those are the ones that I really wanted to make, but it's so time consuming for me to do them myself. So I'm going to go to Mexico, this really amazing studio. We're going to collaborate. So I'm going to go there and teach them how to make them. I'm going to hand paint everything while I'm there. And yeah, I just need to make it a thing.
You're making big moves. You're making big moves. That's it. Hell yeah. That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, it's so cool. I think that, there's definitely, something that happens, I think, to artists when you're not doing the same thing over and over again, but especially like you're saying, out of high school, you know what I mean? You didn't go to art school. You thought about it, but it's like you kind of taught yourself and life was kind of school for a lot in a lot of ways. But you reach a point when you're hungry to learn again. You're like, you want to like learn something, like, and it's something creative. It's so rewarding. And I mean, the work is absolutely incredible. So,
Thank you, Matt. That's so nice to hear.
Yeah, congratulations on that, and obviously super excited to see what comes from the plant in Mexico. That's going to be cool as fuck. Have you been down there?
I know. Well, it's my whole idea was to the things I'm selling now. Honestly, the Sacred Hearts, that was like a practice for making a one-piece mold because I make all the molds myself, and I don't know if you've ever tried making plaster molds. It's super stressful and messy and crazy.
No. I made my mom like a ceramic bowl in like 5th grade that she still has. She said she still has it. It's all got it on the table. Yeah, it's all fucked up. It's all fucking weird, But it's all good. But it was cool. I had a good time making it. I think it's an awesome trade. It's an awesome skill, and the art itself is just incredible. But it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Well, it's not easy in a New York apartment either, because I have. Well, let's say a piece for COVID being terrible, but the lockdown gave me the opportunity to actually focus. This is why, I just started in a new studio 3 weeks ago, McCary Gallery in Brooklyn, a private studio, and I'm working for myself, my friends, Julia and Joaquin. It's their studio, but they have very graciously accepted me to pay rent and not be an artist that they need commission from. And so now I have the time to put into this craziness that is ceramics because it's so unpredictable and it's so time consuming because everything can be lost in one firing. So everything can crack, everything can break.
Yeah.
And I have always had a 2-bedroom apartment. So one of the bedrooms is my studio. And luckily when we had lockdown, I had everything set up. Maybe only 3 months before we had lockdown, I had bought everything I need to make everything in my apartment other than the firing in the studio in Long Island City. But I just got to lockdown for the 4 or 5 months and make all my originals, make all my plaster molds. Without that, because I was full-time tattooing and I had a lot of pressure to be working and tattooing and making money, I couldn't have done it. And, COVID has been fucked and it's screwed up a lot of things for people, but I am very happy I had this downtime to realize what's important and what I need to focus on and make myself happy. And this shit makes me happy.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I mean, I know, it's been that way. That's kind of been the silver lining for a lot of people, I think, is there's been a lot of, you've had to kind of put things in perspective. And for a lot of people, I think, life is hard. It's complicated. It's busy, So, for us as a band, it's like we toured nonstop for like 15 years. And then it was like, we were forced to take a break, and it was like the best thing ever, it was like, oh my God. Yeah. It was so fucking cool, and then it led to just everyone being able to kind of just like breathe a little bit and then take inventory, personally, where you're at, what you want to do, so in that way, obviously it's been terrible in pretty much every other way. But, I think for a lot of people, it's been at least a forced kind of time to look inward and outward and what you want to do, where you're at in life, and just kind of move forward. So that's super cool that you had that idea kind of, ready to go, but you just didn't have time to just, zone in on it and knock it all out. And then you did.
I feel like a lot of things in my life have been just good timing. Like people are like, how did you make all this work? I'm like, it just, for whatever reason, the times were right. And I pulled the trigger at the right time. I didn't sit on it. It was like forcing myself into situations that were kind of stressful. And with the ceramics, it's super stressful. Like this thing in Mexico, I'm like, holy shit, I have to go and like, I don't speak Spanish either. I'm like, I need to learn Spanish right now and go and have this good relationship with this studio and spend a lot of money, honestly, to create this collection and create this situation with them, so that I have a lot of people that don't get, as you said, it sells out. I have only my own manpower to make 40 pieces twice a year. Yeah. But I want to be able to make more, and obviously in a financial way, and just be a businesswoman and create something that's going to be making myself comfortable. And then I can focus on what I was going to say with the ceramics. The line that I have for sale, those are like the pieces that were kind of practice pieces that I sell, and people liked them and responded to them. But the pieces, like I really want to work on curating a wall for someone with plants and tailor it to their space. There's no way I can do that when I'm working 4 days a week tattooing, 3 days a week ceramics, making the hearts, making these things that are like, I want to still paint everything. I want it to be mine, but I want to do installations and make it bigger and do things that are really rewarding and that people can have in their homes. That is like a feature. So I'm just trying to make my life right now, and COVID's made that happen. Honestly, I'm like, I need to change the shit. I need to be.
You need a team. I need a team.
Need a team.
That's incredible. And you'll be fine in Mexico. I don't speak Spanish and I sing in a mariachi group. So you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's all good. That's going to be, I mean, that's so, honestly, that's so exciting. And I'm so happy for you, because that's such a cool thing to be able to go. I mean, just making that first trip down and putting everything together, that's going to be so exciting and cool. That is awesome. Congratulations.
And also the studio is very well respected. It's fine artists. They make things for museums. They have all these connections, and I'm just very grateful that they want to work with me. Above all, I'm like, I'm going to learn so much from them, because I'm just this amateur ceramicist who is like, can you make these things for me? I'm going to come over. And they're like, let's all work together and create something amazing. And they'll teach me so much. Like, I'm excited about that I get to like learn more from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's the process, the evolution continues, So outside of work, outside of Netflix, outside of tattooing, outside of ceramics, what are you doing for fun?
There's nothing.
Nothing? That's it?
There's no time for anything.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy when you get to that point. I mean, it's obviously such a blessing, but it's super crazy when it's like you're getting up pretty much as early as a person can get up without being completely insane. And you're working, to the point where you're falling asleep and you're stoked and you're happy. But it's so crazy how you can it's just your days are just jam packed with just work, and
but I'm trying to, since I started at the new studio, because I have control of everything now, I'm like, put your boundaries. Boundaries are a very special thing to me right now.
Yeah.
Because I've never had them. I'm like, it's very flattering when people want to get tattooed by you. It's very flattering when people want to buy your ceramics. And I'm so grateful for it. But I need to have some time for myself as well.
Yeah.
Which honestly consists of watching TV and hanging out with friends and normal things, which that's what I do. I just try and not do anything, honestly, outside of ceramics was my hobby that turned into another job. Grateful for it. But yeah, my days off, right now I'm working 3 to 4 days a week, 4 days at the most, and forecasting all my clients for the rest of the year.
Awesome.
I'm like, no, don't overdo it. Just do it doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter. It's about mental health above anything else.
Yeah.
And seeing my family, going back to New Zealand, spending the time with people. Like, that's what I care about right now, honestly.
Yeah, that's
very important.
Yeah, it is, and it's like, it's good that you're at a spot in your life where you know that and you can appreciate that, because sometimes
I was not like that before.
Yeah, I feel you. But it's a beautiful thing when you can come to that realization because, you work and you play and you travel and you do all this stuff. But I mean, life is, if you're lucky, life is short. You know what I mean? It's like, it goes by like that. So, I'm super stoked for you that you're taking the time to set your boundaries up, and
No, don't work. Like, take the time out. It's so important.
Absolutely.
Go to the pool, go drink some cocktails. I think with how we've been locked down as well, I really want to spend some time traveling again and not working. I always worked and traveled. There was never any vacation, holiday time. It was just like, well, if I'm going there, I should tattoo, right? I should bring my stuff. But I really want to, coming forward out of COVID, when we can travel safely again, is just go and visit some places I haven't been to and just go experience some things and other cultures and meet people that, you meet so many people on Instagram and through social media that you don't get to visit. I'm like, let's just focus on doing that stuff as well.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. I'm super excited. We have we're leaving for tour in like 2 weeks and it's,
where are you going? Where's your first stop?
It's just full US. First stop's Minneapolis, which is a great city. And then we're going to UK in January next year, back over to England and Europe. Yeah, but I know. I'm so excited because it's like, a lot of people see traveling as a grind, and I get that, but I'm just not that person. Like, I've always loved it. I've always loved the experience of obviously playing music live, but just being in different places, absorbing different cultures, different cities, different, all that stuff.
Meeting all those Aussies that are in all the places that you go.
I know. I can't wait to go back to Australia. It's going to be, I can't.
What's your favorite city?
I love, it's crazy. I go, it's probably Melbourne for sure, but Brisbane is a soft spot in my heart because it's the first city we played. And honestly, for a while it was kind of like Sydney was kind of like the no art kind of culture zone, but it's
very conservative. It feels very like, yeah.
Last time I was there though, it bounced back. It was like, there was a lot happening. Yeah, there was a lot happening. So, I'm excited to go back and even, obviously hit the West Coast too, hit Perth. So,
tell me when you're here. I'll come and see you. For sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll be in New York in September, late September, something like that.
Oh, cool. I'll be here.
Yeah. Right on. I'll make sure to say.
Come and see you. I saw you in Melbourne years ago. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Right on. Well, awesome, Rose. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for talking.
On the Sailor Jerry podcast. Yeah, and honestly, congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
Much love, continued success, and keep those boundaries set. And that's it. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the flip
Thanks,
side.
Matt. Great to see you. Bye.
Bye. Oh, yeah. That's a wrap on episode 16, ladies and gentlemen. We have successfully ventured into the YouTube forest, into the video realm of the Sailor Jerry podcast. As always, huge thanks to our guest, the one and only Rose Hardy. She is an amazing human being. You can follow her at Rose Hardy at Instagram And of course, you can follow me at 213 Mattman and Sailor Jerry at Sailor Jerry. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, please, above all things, do not forget that Sailor Jerry spiced rum is made the old school way, 92 proof, bold and smooth as hell. We'll see you next time. Peace.